Let's quickly get into the groove of the conversation today, which is on the countdown to Edo 2024 governorship election. I have with me a member of the Young Progressives Party, YPP. I'd like to thank Peter Okumbowa for joining me on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Sonny. Good morning to the audience.
We're also expecting Tony Alile, is a member of the PDP, to join this conversation. Thank you again for coming on the program. I've heard people say that the 2024 Edo State governorship election is going to be unique. What with the fact that we have new entrants into the race? What with the fact that the level of political awareness and political education in Edo State is very, very high? What are your thoughts on this so-called uniqueness about this election?
Well, I'd like to say that it's not necessarily that because there are new entrants. It's for the fact that there are new voices they want to raise. And these voices, most of them now represents a class of people that have been, since May 29, 1999, have been left unattended to. I mean the common man. It takes a person in your shoes to exactly know how it hurts or how it is or how it fits. So since the common man are on the race, we have quite a number of them. Some parties have elites on their tickets, while some other parties have common people, regular, ordinary people without much big titles on their tickets. And they've been engaging the Edo people. And from the last presidential outing, we've seen a trajectory that wasn't quite surprising. Edo people have always been sort of unique when it comes to their voting pattern. Edo people always want to try something they think would work for them. Not necessarily that we could lobotomize the average Edo voter. An Edo voter on the average is above lobotomization. What is more, the hunger just now and the present economic reality just now just mean that an average voter is actually listening up for economic revolution, plans to take them out of this obscurity, as opposed to just going to fill the seat in Osadebe Avenue. If it's to sit in Osadebe Avenue, any person who has the will and has the muscle and who has a platform could go sit there. But this time around, people are looking at electing somebody who has an economic blueprint, because everything about this election of 2024 subsumes in the quality of the life of the people. We've had in the past people who promised XYZ that did not come to pass. Now we're not looking for those who the ordinary man can relate with, and very importantly, relate with his policies. It's easy for me to speak in very verbose and fine English to obscure the understanding of very many audience. But you see, those listening few who are a bit educated enough to grab, analyze, and extrapolate those things you're saying are going down to the grassroots to go and tell their people in the language they understand that XYZ may amount to what in local parlance is called Obubuyeye. Then XYZ is practicable, doable. Because policies should be the bane of any person contesting elections in any same clan. It should never be about the political platform, how big or small it is. It should never be about your religious background. It should never be about your wealth as a person, because you are not coming to Osadebe Avenue to use your money to better the lots of Edo people. So basically, Edo people are to vote you on the basis of the ideas that you have so told them on how their lives can become better. This is why I want to beg those who have become merchants of Venice, those who have become data boys and girls doing the biddings of political parties and personalities XYZ, to first of all understand what you are selling to the Edo people, because the YPP must not get there. The other party you are pushing must not get there. But whoever gets there should be the will of the people. And the will says so by reason of their mental regurgitation. I haven't put that into the process of thinking if this person could do it for us. And I want also use this opportunity to beg the media. Their role in this election will be like never before, because we're not new to issues of vote buying and inducement of voters. It's only media outfits like ITV, your person, that can tell the public that taking this money might solve an immediate problem, but tomorrow you are certainly going to hunger if the person does not have the blueprints. Now I also want to beg that politicians should tell Edo people basically what they are going to do. So far, Mr. Sonny Duke, none of the big political parties, in quotes, is telling Edo people anything as such. Okay. They are moving with trajectories, they are moving with presuppositions, they are moving with innuendos, but nobody is saying anything practically that we can hold them to.
All right. I'd like to thank Tony Alile, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, joining us on the program. Tony, thanks a lot for coming. It wasn't easy getting here.
No, it wasn't.
I know exactly what you went through because I experienced exactly the same thing. But all the same, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I've heard people say this by virtue of the fact that the PDP is in power in Edo State. It's the party to beat. I know you want to talk to us in that direction. But what are those things, by virtue of being the party in power, that has put in you or put the party in a trajectory of, you know, coming out in a very successful manner in the polls with all the avalanche, avalanches of challenges bedeviling the party, as it were?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me in today, in spite of all the hitches on the way getting here. You see, the answer to that question is not far-fetched. We are going to go into this campaign based on what PDP has done in this state. That is PDP government as of present. If you look at what this present government has done differently from what has always taken place over time, you will agree with me that is a legacy that another PDP ought to continue with. Having said that, if you also look at the personality of individuals that are vying for this governorship position across all the party lines, you will agree with me that the candidate of PDP stands out excellently in all ramifications. When you talk about academic qualification, he stands out. When you talk about experience, I mean, when I say experience, corporate experience, management of management of resources, prudence, and all other things that the candidate possesses, it's going to be a very easy sell for us. There is this book I read in my secondary school days, where the author, I think it was S.M. Owaka, if I can still remember very well, he said a good product is very easy to sell at the marketplace, and that is who we have right now. So we are still not going to take things for granted because we have a good product, like I've just said. We're still going to work out. If you can see in the political arena for the past 2 months since the campaign was lifted by INEC, everywhere you go, all you see is Aswe Ighodalo and Osarodion Ogie. Not because we are government in power, because people genuinely believe that this is the man that will take us to the next level beyond the institutional reform and all other great things this present administration has done.
Okay.
So
let me push it there. You said a while ago before he joined us that going into this election, you haven't seen any political party that has brought forth a policy thrust to anchor their engagements with the people. Can you establish that point further?
Well, interestingly, we have somebody on the PDP platform who will speak for them, and that's fine. I like to say that since the ban on the campaigns have been lifted, the PDP candidates have essentially not said anything existential, something that the ordinary man in the street can hold on to. You've enjoyed a presence, fine, and that presence you've enjoyed is not anything other than the fact that it's an extension of state power. We are aware of gatherings where the PDP candidates have made presence that other people have been rejected or other people have not been called to. Because our people, some of the people within the corridors of power or those within society have a very funny sense of oppression that only those who are above and beyond them can lead them. But that has never been the very idea of leadership as God would intend it. Because if, like I said earlier before he came on board, no billionaire or no wealthy man is coming to office to use his money to better the lots of Edo people. It ought to be basically something that has to do with ideas and policies. Now, when it comes to education, I'm an educationist. That's where I have my strengths. I've been waiting to hear from any of the other political parties, PDP, APC, Labour, and other parties, PROP, NNPP, on the policy drive as far as the education sector is concerned. And up to now, I've not heard anything. Now,
So what were you expecting?
There are 4 areas that actually matters to the ordinary man out there in the streets.
Okay.
That any person who means well for the ordinary people will talk about extensively. The rest are the gains of democracy. It's more or less like you went to cash your money out of the ATM and you are thanking the ATM for dispensing your money. Infrastructural development are synchronous, and people should not be praised on the basis of that as such, even though it's something to applaud them for. Because a natural responsibility that comes upon a man who has the say-so over our taxes, as it were. I'm looking at policies that are driven at improving the lives of the individual person. The American dream, it said, thrives on the belief in the evolution of the individual person. It is the development of the individual person that amounts to societal development. When we look at our educational system, for example, I dare say that the camera of ITV can go around all the primary schools and secondary schools in Edo State, and you will never compare that to Borno State. Borno that has a lower IGR than Edo, Borno that receives lower grants than Edo, because Edo is oil producing. When you check Google now, sir, and you see the infrastructures that has been bequeathed to the future of Borno people, you will know that Professor Zulum is intentional about raising the sons and daughters of the nobody to come out of obscurity. When I saw schools by Borno state government, all our people here could say in defense is that there's a special budgetary whatever that has been assigned for Northeast development. And I reminded them of the sums that have come from the federal government as education support funds, and the ones that have come from the international community. After us, we speak, there is a case before the EFCC that has been published by Erasmus Ekide of the present administration's inability to explain 160-something billion naira that has come from the federal government to support education in Edo State, and another explanation needed to be given to the people of $74 million from the UNICEF to the World Bank to support education. Now, when I enter our schools, I see still there are no functional laboratories for chemistry, Greek, physics, biology. I give up on this present administration because if there's anything I'm going to do for the common man is to help his daughter or son out of obscurity. Okay. Any other thing is politics.
Okay. Let's get your take on this in terms of policy thrust.
You see, first of all, let me clear a point here. There has never been an event that Aswa Ighodaro attended while other candidates were deprived. As a matter of fact, there is this group in BIU, something Nest, I don't have the full name.
Tinker's Nest.
Tinker's Nest, that has been inviting candidates. Aswa Ighodaro has attended. The candidate of the Labour Party has attended. Unfortunately, we don't know why the candidate of APC is afraid of the microphone. The same thing happened at...
He didn't say he's afraid of microphone.
Oh, well.
Was he invited?
He was invited.
You're very sure. Do you have the evidence that he was invited?
The APC candidate was invited.
He was invited.
I indicted BIU on this issue. I spoke with Feb himself, wherein the university has reduced Edo State to a 3-party system.
No, let's he has the floor. Yeah.
So he was invited. For reasons best known to him, he never showed up. Okay. I'm not even here to talk about him. I am not a spokesman for the government because there are things that I would not want to get into because I am not disposed to the accurate data. But to sit down here and accuse the state government that there is a case before the EFCC of a 160 billion education fund from the federal government.
That's in public domain, sir.
I don't even know where that came from. I don't know if the federal government has 160 billion pumped into the national education system. Talk about a state getting 160 billion. That's an issue that will come up another day. Now, going back to the candidate of PDP, because that's the reason I'm here. I'm not going to talk about any other person. The candidate of the PDP has his manifestos intact. And I am not authorized to sit down here and present his manifesto. And I'm sure at the appropriate time.
So if you can't discuss the manifesto, then what's
let me land on what I'm talking about. I am not going to sit down here and present his manifesto. I am privy to his manifestos. I am privy to some of the things that he intends doing differently from what is on the ground at the moment. And I am sure at the appropriate time he will speak.
So what is Edo? What is Edo people expecting? What is the engagement with Edo people in terms of messaging for this election?
The message that we are putting up there is very simple. How do we like Edo before the government of Godwin Obaseki? How is Edo as at today? And where do we want to take Edo from after Godwin Obaseki? Okay. And who is that person that can fit in? We are talking about understanding. There are policies of government of present day that that you cannot bring that you can't bring a newcomer to jump into. And there are things that has been done in this government, like raising the standard of the various institutions, like building the morals of the civil service, like putting the infrastructure down for a smooth running of government. All of these things, or are you going to talk about Edo being the first state to be declared paperless, in whatever you want to do in, with governance? So all of these things are part of the things that Edo will want to really sit down and look at the various candidates in the various political parties and see who that person is that can continue from this perfect and absolute work that Godwin Obaseki has done. So it beats my imagination to see people sit down to criticize this government in area of education. This administration made it a point of duty for them from day one to make sure that every child in this state is educated. See what they are doing with the basic education. See what they are doing with the secondary education. See, look at the marvelous work the Commissioner of Education, even when she was in charge of the SUBEB. Look at all the wonderful things she has brought into our educational system. Are you going to talk about the healthcare system? I don't know if you have been to Stella Obasanjo. Every time anybody talk about healthcare system, the first thing someone points to is the part of specialist was demolished. Those parts has never been in use for the past 20 years anyway. So if you go to every local government today, there are primary healthcare institutions in all of them. And these are the things that this government has done differently from what has been.
Let me proceed there, Tony. I'll come back to you as much as time will permit us. But let's get you into the policy initiative that you think will alter the course of development, different from what the PDP has, because the PDP, being the government in power, would easily say we've done this, or they've done this, they've done that, and stuff like that. But if you have something different, uniquely different from that in terms of policy, share it with us. Yeah.
An actor from the PDP extraction would in any gathering seek to present the PDP candidate as the best in the contest. That's understandable.
Is your party
have to sell
the candidate? I'm sorry.
Yes, the YPP has a candidate.
Oh, okay.
The YPP has a candidate.
I will be expecting you to talk about your candidate.
Yes.
I'm bashing the government.
I'm not bashing the government.
Because you're going to leverage your party.
We want to get out of the
your party is going to leverage on what your government has done.
So you cannot have a better opportunity than this.
Okay, just hold on. Yes.
So can we seize every opportunity?
We cannot make some issues sacred, like untouchable as a people. If we're going to move forward, any party in government, any party aspiring to be in government must be ready to be criticized. Because in the end, it is not a government for a few, supposedly it's a government for all, the least disadvantaged. What the YPP intends to bring on board is a fresh understanding and definition of our democracy, first of all, wherein we don't see how existentially possible it is that the political party performs in the Nigeria equation to the point where they can declare 18 over 18, 192 over 192, and 24 over 24, as the case may be. This has been the policy since May 29, 1999. They've never allowed the sons and daughters of the ordinary man who has a dream to breathe. It's always a selection and a crowning. The YPP is saying that for our democracy to be deepened, it has to be truly the reflection of the people's will. It has to reflect their will. Nobody will sit here and tell me that the last elections was a reflection of the will of the people. We can contest that at the Ogomba. We can go to the palace and contest that if they want to. Or we can go to Ailara Shrine and contest that if they want to. Because these days,
those constitutional means?
When you say they are not constitutional means, I'm just making an allusion to something that we all sort of fear these days. These are people who take the Bible or the Quran and lie to the people entering public office. That's why some school of thought have said, let us use the traditional way, which is Ogun, to swear. So that before you reach there, you Ogun kick you away for road. Then you know what you be careful with the people's mandate. You cannot you cannot have the say so over the collective patrimony of the people and dispense it just anyhow you like. So first of all, our democracy must reflect the will of the ordinary man in the streets. His voice must count. EDSEC cannot be manipulated by any government in power. It should have an independence to the extent that the will of the people should find its way. In the last elections, I saw that the steam that the obedient had gathered did not even matter in the elections as it were. And you're telling me that the party in power has become so popular that they got it without any other way of going about it. We saw some things that happened in the local government, for example. So the white people is saying that democracy has to be defined, has to be redefined. It has to be the government for the ordinary people, by the ordinary people, and for the ordinary people. It has to be theirs. That way, if the plutocrats and the elite want to live with us in Edo, they are welcome, because they are 1% of the entire population of Benin, of Edo State. The ordinary people in Edo from the 3 senatorial districts are a majority, and you cannot stop, you cannot push them out of power. Okay. It is wrong to push them out of power.
Sorry, Duke. Yes, this is one thing that is always expected of some political parties. I just asked him a question if his party is featuring a candidate in this election, because there is no visible proof that YPP has a candidate. They are not campaigning. They are not putting forward whoever their candidate is.
It's not
only a political party, so many parties. By the time the man that has been around the 18 local government, 192 wards of Edo State twice wins the election, this is how they go and start crying foul.
So can I tell you something?
Hold on, sir. Let me quickly clear on this. I am not directing this to you alone. All other political parties except PDP, they are not visible right now as we speak. PDP is busy campaigning, moving from one market to the other. Also, Godaro is meeting with people. They are aggrieved. The ones we classify as the yellow stand, the undecided voters. He's meeting with them in every local government, in every ward, in every zone. By the time all this come together to become a victory for him in September, this same YPP and other political parties will cry foul. Why are your candidates, why are your two candidates not in the street?
Do you know why
are we not hearing about them?
Do you know why you
also want to hear about some other political party other than PDP?
Do you know why you think,
so
sir,
please,
that the people
this is my advice. This is my advice to you and other political parties.
The reason you think
people should go out and campaign.
The process to power was not has never been credible.
But listen, nobody is stopping anybody from campaigning. There has never been any violence recorded throughout this period of campaign. I wear my cap everywhere I go. Even as I was crossing this blockade around what do you call the 7-Up, I had my cap on.
Hello,
because
sir.
It is free for everybody to campaign. I think I'm very right to ask you that question.
The message. Let me ask you this question.
Just a moment. Campaign for your candidate.
Just a moment, Tony. Just a moment.
It's public.
Paul, just a moment. Peter, just a moment, rather. You said your candidate has been going and meeting people.
Absolutely.
What is the response? Is the messaging being accepted?
Overwhelming. Overwhelming.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Because the election has not taken place. No, whether that message is resonating with people or not, depending on how the election turns out.
We've been in this game over time. We know when we are talking to somebody that is serious. When I come to talk to you about Aso Igodaro and you offer me your telephone number to keep in touch with you, what does that signify? When I come to talk to you about Aso Igodaro, you call all the children, everybody in your house to come and hear me talk. What does that signify? If I come to your house and you wouldn't let me sit down and say, please go away with your party thing, I would put that on the red.
Okay,
if you are not very sure of where you are, where your stand is, I'll put you on the yellow. But the majority of the places that we have visited, it has been green all the way.
Let me get you on this. You started by saying that this election is like a watershed in changing the response level of the electorates to the elites in terms of choices and decision. Can you take that further a little before we call it a wrap?
All right. I did mention that it takes a man who will walk in your shoe to understand how it hurts. As we stand in Edo State today, the 3 tertiary institutions of Edo, an average salary earner and a hustler cannot afford tuition there. AAU, Yamo, and Edo State School of Nursing. My younger brother's wife is in Edo State School of Nursing. I know where he has to cough out to have his wife finish school. You get me? And I asked myself, people who are living here, the ordinary man, and let me tell you a very pathetic story. As somebody who is a player in the education sector, I was at Main Gate opposite the University of Benin in a cafe where a man came to check the result of his daughter, last post-UTME. And he saw that the daughter has been admitted to study in AAU. And the man was crying. The 2 other daughters were with him. And the man was crying. Went to the corner and was weeping. I saw him. Okay, you should be happy. He said, no, my son will be pensioner. He said, we are the inn and no go fit. See, these two don't they a problem for my neck.
I'm glad that he's earning something in this government.
These two were the train, now problem for me already. He said, this one can't join over. He called them and told the daughter, the first one there, that this one may not be able to go to school now because he can't afford it. And Mr. Sonny Dick, you won't believe what the daughter told the father. He said, carry on with this, my immediate youngest and the last girl. I will take care of myself. Because these were my students. So when the father left, I called the girl. What do you intend to do? How you want to raise money, take care of yourself? He says, I was, it was, that will happen. I'll do hookup. You're telling me that he's earning something. I'm asking a question on the life of the individual person. Case. On the, no, that is not just an isolated case. That represents a larger community of people.
What is going to be best in this campaign is a lot of these political parties are going to be campaigning for Aswin Godaro. By what you have just mentioned, you are talking about the take-home salary of people that is no longer affordable. Are you aware that on the first, are you aware that on
hold on. You don't have the floor. You don't have the floor.
The truth of the matter is that any responsible government should not owe salary. Any responsible government should not owe pension, as they've worked for it.
Good.
I mentioned earlier that you should stop thanking the ATM for giving you your money. They're taxpayers. They deserve it.
But it's a big deal.
We're talking about the capital development of the individual persons here. And I'm asking myself questions like, on the basis of what the tuition of these schools are, can the ordinary man afford it? Because if I have 3 children who are just maybe a year and some months older than each other, and in that sequence they're entering the university, and my salary is not up to like 300K, I'm in problems because I miss other responsibility. I have to make sure they're educated. Yeah. I'm asking myself the question, on the basis of that per capita development of the individual person, where is Edo State? Because I heard when the PDP candidate said in the last Allowed Door Summit that Edo now has moved from a $15 billion asset base to a $25 billion asset base. I said, wow. The next question that arose in my mind is that when you look at the critical infrastructure of Edo State, it does not reflect that sum. I'd like to ask, sir, when you mentioned Stella Obasanjo, I don't know if people have commissioned it. I don't know any person who has received healthcare in Stella Obasanjo since when it was shut down, hoping to reopen. I don't know where the...
Have you been there lately?
I don't know where the regular... That's why I said, sir, I don't know if you've opened it.
Okay.
Because for you to open to the you have to commission it. You have to commission it. Mr. Sonny Dick is in the press here. Yeah. It's his job to know these things. So let us ask him. Thank you, it has not been commissioned. So that means it has not been put to use. And 8 years of your administration is winding down. Okay. The question is that for the past 8 years going, where has the ordinary man's child been taking treatment? Because UBTH is overwhelmed.
Okay.
The private hospitals are very expensive to go to. Where is the ordinary man taking treatment?
So where is the ordinary man taking treatment?
Before now, where were the ordinary men and women dying on Ring Road, waiting for their pension that never comes? Backlog of over 12, 13 years. As of today, how does the pensioners get their money?
You want to be allowed? Should I respond, sir?
No, I'm coming. Where is the where are the ordinary men and women of the civil service who before now, as a matter of fact, when the federal government increased the minimum wage to 30,000, this administration was paying 40,000. The federal government is still dilly-dallying on agreeing on 54,000. This administration is already paying 70,000. I was with somebody yesterday who works with a local government, now local government, who works with a local government. Right then and there, she received her alert of 70,000 as minimum wage, because she is on the lower cadre.
Okay.
So what else are you expecting this government to do for the ordinary man? I don't know your classification of ordinary men or women, but as far as I'm concerned, those people that labors daily deserve to earn their salary, and that is what this administration is doing, and doing very well.
Right.
I want, let me quickly conclude by saying that I'm going to find it difficult for the about 45% of our voting bloc who are civil servants, who enjoys a very beautiful atmosphere, a good working environment created by this administration for them to carry out their work. That is why you see the output growing by the day. People talk about Edo State IGRO growing. It's not that the government is increasing tax. It's blocking the loopholes and making people to do what they are expected to do.
Okay.
Because the environment is conducive.
All right, let me take a financial from you. Yeah, let me take a financial from you.
And
Peter.
They are very happy.
All right,
so I don't know whether for the 5% of the voting bloc and civil servants is going to go.
As of today in Edo State and in Nigeria, as of today in Edo State, a pint rubber of Gary costs 3,500.
Is that the making of the state government?
I'm responding.
You are saying Edo State.
I'm responding.
Go to Kogi.
I'm responding.
The same pint rubber of Gary is 5,500.
If we don't take it one at a time, we'll make it rowdy, please.
Question.
Yeah.
The pint rubber of Gary is 3,500 to 4,000 naira.
That is general.
I don't know what it costs in Kogi and Everance, but I remember that the cassava in Edo State is a local product that is not, its price should not be disturbed by the value of the dollar. Just a moment, sir. It's not be disturbed by the value of the dollar. These are local productions from farm to peeling, to cutting, to fermentation, to frying, and yet the cost of Gary is this high. And you speak about somebody getting an alert of 70,000 naira in the present day economy as though that's something to. I appreciate the fact that there was an increment at all.
Oh, good.
I'll be stupid and remiss if I do not appreciate that.
Good.
But the question I still ask myself is that enough to take a man who has worked for
most states are unable to pay the 30,000?
Is that enough to take it on? And not to mention, sir, you have mentioned it as though we are all receiving this money. Don't forget that the population of Edo State, sir, is nearly 5-point-something million naira. And 5-point-something million people. And the population of the workforce of Edo State, as it concerns the civil service of Edo today, by statistics is less than 4,000. There are 3,980 something of them.
Multiply that by their wives.
So multiply that by their wives.
Most states can't even pay the 30,000.
Just a moment.